Hello and welcome to Sports Today. First COVID case in the Olympic Village. That's the big headline that's dominating social media for the day. Indian team has taken the nets in Durham. Practice has restarted. Rishabh Pant quarantines. Bharat Arun is in isolation. That continues. On the other side, West Indies knocking off Australia almost for one. Bangladesh routing Zimbabwe after scoring 276. World Cup groupings announced. Several people believe that the Indian group is as difficult. I don't think so. So plenty to talk with you about sport today. So let's start. Let's start with the big one, the Olympic Games. If anybody felt, based on any statement, that there will not be a single COVID case, that's never going to happen. The reality of our world is very different. This is a world that is infested and dominated by COVID. There are many countries that are witnessing surges at the moment. Take a look at Europe. There are many countries, America, if you see CDC guidance, mostly unvaccinated people, 99% unvaccinated people. But there are these breakthrough infections also among twice vaccinated people in India as well. Today also an ICMR study has been published, one by the National Institute of Virology in Pune has been published. So to expect that there will be no COVID cases, and yes, the Olympic Village is 85% vaccinated, it's relatively safe, very safe, but there will be breakthrough infections. That is why they are called breakthrough infections. The question is, how robust is the protocol for track, treat, and trace? The point is, that's what is important. Track, treat, trace. Take our case, the Indian media or Indian athletes. There is a particular protocol. There are two kinds of classifications, A1 and 2. There are 14 countries in these two categories. Now, for each of us, we are supposed to test. If you can hear me. Ashish, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Ashish, give me a thumbs up. Good. So the point here is pretty simple. In the case of the Indian media, for example, we have to test 7 days before we go. So in my case, 19th is when I leave India for Japan, which is Monday. So my testing has started from the 13th. Rather, when was the first test I did? I think I did one before that also, on the 10th. So every day I've tested myself. 2 tests we have to get, that is mandatory, 96 hours and 72 hours. Those reports you have to physically carry. The Japanese consulate has a particular protocol, a format, in which you have to get the report by the hospital, which is a designated hospital. So in Calcutta, there are 2 designated or 3 designated hospitals, Woodlands and Apollo Gleneagles, SRL Diagnostics. Now you have to have your birth date, your passport number, all of these details, time of collection of report, along with the hospital stamp as part of that form, which you have to submit on immigration. Now the question is, we are anyway 7 days tested. We will be tested on arrival. So the chances of carrying an infection is very limited. What you can do is you can pick up an infection in travel. Yes, we will all travel with N95 masks and sanitizers and head shields, and we are all twice vaccinated. But you can still pick up infection while traveling. Now that might not show up on day 0, which is arrival day at the airport. What will happen then? Anyway, we have to quarantine for 3 days, and it's hotel quarantine. So if you and for Indians, you will have to get tested 8 days. Arrival day 0 plus 7. So frankly, that is when you are quarantining, by then the infection should show up by day 4, 5. The moment that is done, you will be isolated because you are getting tested every day. This is the kind of robust system that has been put in place for everyone, athletes, officials, media. So the case that happened today, we have to be very clear, how did it happen? The person was not detected at the airport. The person was detected at the games village. When he was entering the games village, he was part of the technical personnel working as far as the organization of the games are concerned. So clearly he was picked up while testing. That's what is important. What is important is you will not be able to avoid the cases. What you will be able to avoid is making sure that the cases do not become a cluster. That's when you have to check, curb, control. And that's why the track, treat, trace is so very important as far as I'm concerned. Am I not scared? Is anybody who is not scared undertaking travel these days? Everyone is. But what does that mean? I have read multiple social media comments saying, should the Olympic Games be cancelled? No. For the Champions League, there was, one day, if you see the PSV game, 4 players were detected positive. The game went on. In the Euros, there were several cases. In cricket, there has been cases. Now, if you have to move on, and if you see countries like the United States, countries like UK, there will be cases. We are now moving to that stage of the pandemic where we are taking it that we have to live with this virus for about a year or more till the time most of the world is vaccinated. And then obviously over time the virus will become endemic. That is the scientific explanation that all of us have read. If that is the case, sport cannot stop. What will cancellation of an Olympic Games do? I've read this. Should the games go on? Should they be cancelled? Frankly, the Olympic Games is not a sporting activity only. And this is a point that I have tried to make to you every single day. The Olympic Games is also an economic activity of tremendous significance. Anyone who says, the game should be cancelled, think of the 11,000 athletes who are there in Tokyo who have trained day in, day out for 5 years for this moment. 5 years. Think of the 29,000 media who make themselves relevant by being there. Think of the lakhs of media who will cover these games in different parts of the world and stay relevant accordingly. Our jobs will go. If sport is stopped, be it a Cricket World Cup, be it an IPL, be it an Olympic Games, be it a FIFA World Cup, be it an Euro, it's also economic activity. It is economic activity. This platform, Sports Today, if there is no sport, this platform doesn't exist. All of us are jobless. The entire sporting industry, the peripheral, the fraternity, the ecosystem of sport will come to a standstill. I see 2 categories of people who say sport should be stopped. One, people who are now retired and have nothing to gain from being sports journalists, or people from my own fraternity who I find extremely vindictive and I find them a real blotch on our fraternity. And 2, people who do not think it through. Maybe they have good intentions. But think about the fact that $36 billion have been spent. Think about sport as an economic activity. Today, is a media house not working? Is a television studio not working? Is a factory not working? Is an airport not working? Railways not working? Any kind of economic activity that is on in our world to sustain the world is working, right? Sport is also a form of economic activity for the sponsor, for the broadcaster, for the journalist, for the athlete. The entire sporting ecosystem is nothing less but an industry. So for that industry to come to a standstill, think of the size of that industry around the world, and the pinnacle of that industry is the Olympic Games. So for 1 COVID case or 44 COVID cases, what has been detected in Tokyo from the 1st of July, associated with the Olympics, that is. Obviously, yesterday there were 1,200 cases. Now for that, if you say that, we will ban everything, is it even viable? Now of the 44, how many are in serious condition? How many have been hospitalized? Has it spread to a cluster? Can that be checked? What are the scientific measures that have been taken by the IOC, by the local organizing committee to check the spread of COVID into a cluster? These are the kind of questions we must ask, rather than saying, should the Olympic Games go on? They will go on. They must go on. We have experienced this last year when COVID came into our world. We moved past it. Today, it is not about, I mean, if there is a case, the whole city was sealed last year. It was like that. Think about it. All of us were like gone. Today, we know that the virus will be there. We know there is protection in the form of vaccines. We know it is not protection against infection, but we know that there is protection against serious disease. We will get vaccinated. We will keep working. That is the way forward. That is what the United States is doing. That is what the United Kingdom is doing. Israel is doing. United Arab Emirates is doing. Every other country which has an advanced pace of vaccination is doing. And if you see every scientific report, vaccines are working against mitigating serious disease. So to call for an abolition of the Olympic Games, to call for a ban on the Olympic Games is perhaps not practical. It is an impractical suggestion because the size of the economic activity that is the Olympic Games is quite staggering. And I for one believe that it's the moment of the athletes. None of us should take away their form of economic activity. None of us can take away our form of economic activity, the sponsors, the broadcaster, the stadium build, everybody. We are also relevant. We are an industry, we are a workforce as well. That is precisely what the Olympic Games are all about. So while there is a COVID case in the village, and we all should be justly careful, more vigilant, to call for an abolition or banning of the Olympic Games is perhaps not viable. It is not viable. I will definitely travel. God willing, I will be fine. But that's how our world is. This is the new normal. You will not be 100% secure in a COVID-infested world. That's the truth. That is the truth. I hope I have been able to address this very, very significant point that has been bothering me, and I've been constantly writing about it on social media as well. I hope I have been able to make my stand amply clear. Coming to the Indian cricket team in Durham, we have now seen the team starting to practice, and tonight Shikhar Dhawan will address the media at 8 p.m. about the team that is there in Sri Lanka starting its tour tomorrow. What I would want to see with the Sri Lanka tour, I know Rahul Dravid's in charge, but I would want Rahul Dravid, Virat Kohli and Ravi Shastri to get on a call as to what is expected from this team in Sri Lanka. Ultimately, it's Virat Kohli and Ravi Shastri who will have to lead the Indian team in the World Cup, the T20 World Cup. I don't envisage any change till then. It is absolutely imperative and important that Rahul Dravid, Virat Kohli and Ravi Shastri get on this call, because it's very important to know what Virat's vision is as skipper going into the World Cup. And Rahul as head coach in Sri Lanka is the best man to be able to do what the captain wants in terms of the strength of the squad, certain players, etc. He must be having a vision, because that's how India has to go about it. Ravi and Virat, in collaboration or in consultation with the team in Sri Lanka, in head coach Rahul Dravid, obviously mitigated and helped by the BCCI. That is the way forward for Indian cricket. Of course, whatever happens in England in the Test series is a different matter, because they are already there. 5 Test match series they will play. Everybody knows what to expect. And I have been asked multiple times, will Rishabh Pant be fit? There is zero reason to doubt that Rishabh Pant will be fit. He's already, except feeling a tad weak from what I know, he's absolutely fine, on the mend, getting recovered. So there's no problem. He should be fine in the next 4 to 5 days. Get another test done, move on to Durham for the second practice game. And Bharat, Riddhi, Abhimanyu and Daya obviously has tested positive, so will take a bit more time. But the others, if they develop no symptoms, as of now they haven't, they should all come out of isolation in another 7 days. Today is day 3, and move on to Durham for the test series. That is how the team will approach it in Durham. But there has to be synergy between the team in England, rather the team management in England and the team management in Sri Lanka. Because the Sri Lanka series is not simply a one-off series. It is also a step forward to taking India ahead at the World Cup. Let me also tell you, Chetan Sharma visited Saurav Ganguly Day before, 2 days back, in his house. Saurav is now obviously in Oman and Dubai for the World Cup draw, plan, preparation, IPL, etc. He and Jay. But Chetan Sharma visited Saurav Ganguly's house in Calcutta, and the chairman of selectors was asked by the BCCI president to give him a roadmap. What do they feel? What is their vision plan for the World Cup? Because India hasn't won an ICC event in 8 years, and the pressure is starting to mount. So very important months for Indian cricket. Very important months. At the on the one hand, at one level you have the 5 Test match series in England, which is huge. You have lost the WTC, it still hurts. I've spoken to several of them, it hurts. They're looking forward to this Test series. It's the start of the WTC cycle. More importantly, if you beat England in England, you've already beaten Australia in Australia this year. It'll be a massive statement in front of the world about you as a cricket team, as a Test cricket team. So it will mean the world to Virat. It will mean the world to the team. Ashwin, Rohit, and some of the other boys. Pujara, Ishan. I'm looking forward to watching Siraj bowl. I do think he will make the team. So while on the one hand, that team in England has to, this is your best chance to beat England because you've been in England for a while, you've acclimatized, you're getting enough number of days to practice and be ready. So there is no reason, there is absolutely no reason for you not to do well, no excuses. From the standpoint of the BCCI, you have to get the team in Sri Lanka and the team in England to start talking. Frankly, what happens with the series in Sri Lanka, I'm least bothered. But what I am bothered about is the fact that they are getting match practice, which is hugely important, and many players from the team in Sri Lanka are part of your World Cup vision plan. Be it Surya Kumar Yadav, for example, he is key. Be it Hardik Pandya, Shikhar Dhawan himself can make a comeback, Deepak Chahar, plenty of players in that Sri Lanka touring team will probably be part of the Indian team in the World Cup. That's why this series is important, not simply from the results standpoint. And that's why, what are the assigned roles? You have now backups for every place in the white ball setup, not so much in red ball. What are the assigned roles? What is the captain's vision as far as this team in Sri Lanka is concerned? What does he want from these boys going into the World Cup? These are important considerations for the board to look into. The third news point that I want to talk to you about today, and again, something, West Indies is a very, very talented T20 side. Smashed Australia. Yes, Australia experimented, 3 wicket keepers played in Josh Philippe, Matthew Wade, all of the wicket keepers played. There was no Glenn Maxwell with the bat and with the off spin. There was no David Warner at the top of the order. And it was an experimental Australia. Mitchell Marsh was the standout. Having said that, I do think the West Indies will certainly go into the series as one of the favourites. Not one of the favourites, if not the favourite, along with England going into the World Cup. Now coming to the groups, I am very clear that the second group is tougher. Some people differ with me saying, Pakistan and Afghanistan, etc. Afghanistan is no match for a West Indies or an Australia or an England. No match. New Zealand and Pakistan are the 2 tough teams, and that's about it. On the other side, you have West Indies, Pakistan, England, Australia, and South Africa. Look at the South African T20 performance in the West Indies. Look at what the West Indies have done against Australia. Obviously, Australia will be full strength, and England is the best T20 team in the world. At this point in time, the loss against Pakistan notwithstanding. Now, let's jump the gun. 230. Pakistan scored 201 all out England. Nothing happens as a result. Babar played well. Pakistan played genuinely well. But to see that Liam Livingstone innings, not every day will a Butler and a Bairstow and a Roy will fail, or a Malan. England is clearly, arguably the best T20 team in the world, and that group, according to me, is the more tougher group than compared to the Indian one. So starting tomorrow, I would want this series to be treated as a preparation or a rehearsal for the World Cup. See which players fit the roles that the team management have in mind for them. And that's what is far more important than the result. So huge sporting week coming up. Huge. Tomorrow is the India-Sri Lanka game. Obviously, the Indian team in England has started to train. Test series will happen in 2 weeks. And far more important than any other sports event is the Olympic Games starting the 23rd. This is the COVID edition of sport worldwide. And by the way, lots of people have asked me about chess. I was following the Anand Kramnik stuff as well. But this is sport COVID edition internationally. Anyone who thinks it will be COVID free, it's not going to be the case anymore in any part of the world. But let's enjoy sport because it gives us a lifeline. It does give us a lifeline. It allows me to connect with you on a daily basis. And I love it. Tomorrow I will do this show. I will do this show and day after I travel in the morning. And then obviously I will come on Sports Today every day. But it will depend on how things unfold in Tokyo. So plenty of news, specials, interviews, exclusives will keep coming to you on Sports Today, India Today, Sports Tak and Aaj Tak. We will keep informing you via our social media handles as well. And keep following us, keep supporting us. Till then, goodbye. Tomorrow, 5 p.m., 5 on 5, for the last time temporarily, till I go to Tokyo and keep informing you what time I'll come live. I'll do loads of programming from Tokyo for you all. For the moment, thanks for watching.